Thank you for joining us. Now let's get started. So take a look at some of these top business headline. First one, of course, talks about the commercial bank slashing the personal travel allowance and business travel allowance from 2,000 to from 4,000 US dollars to 2,000 US dollars. And of course, the commercial bank have also commenced an upward review of the processing time for accessing foreign exchange for international school fees to 120 days from 48 hours. Bano, talk to us. How concerned are you about this? Because we talk about the Forex crisis that has almost crippled, the economy, and the impact of that on the performance of the economy in 2022. So are we beginning to see, that perhaps back to where we're coming from?
Please, can you come again with the question? I can't get you clearly, sir.
Okay. So I was saying that with the impact of the Forex crisis on the economy in 2022, and the commercial banks are slashing down how much an individual should access from 4,000 US dollars to 2,000, talking about a personal travel allowance and a business travel allowance from 4,000 to $2,000. Not only that, but the time for accessing this foreign exchange has been moved from 48 hours to 120 days. How does that work, really?
That's very, very, how would I put it, very, very sad to hear. But looking at the reason for the decline in the allocation, if you remember, around last year, February, this period last year, the Central Bank of Nigeria introduced the RT 200 program, which said, okay, yes, the financial institution, the banks,
I guess, we lost audio connection there, but I think Bano was trying to explain to us how that's, feasible. How do you do that? Trying to explain to us the impact that this has caused. I don't know if you are there now. So he was also looking at the fact that the possibility of this really, how realistic really, from 48 hours to 120, how does CBN plan to for what's the CBN's plan really for businesses or for individuals who want to travel or those who want to pay school fees? So these are really concerned. Bano, I'll answer you there now. Talk to us.
Yeah, I can hear you clearly now. I was saying, okay, remarkably, if you remember last year, the Central Bank of Nigeria introduced the RT 200 program, which said that the banks should be sourcing for their FX on their own, that there will be a stop in the allocation of FX to the bank. So that has actually reduced the FX banking, the banking system is having to facilitate this BAT and PAT transactions. And looking at that again, if you look at this year alone, the foreign reserve has declined significantly by about 1.9%. Currently, as at Monday, we had about 36.39 billion naira, $1 billion in the foreign reserve. So which are actually reduced significantly only in this year. So there will be low availability of FX. There's no liquidity of FX in the system. So that's one of the reasons we're having these low allocations for this PAT, BTA programs. So another thing is the timing of it. 120 is very, very critical, and it's very, very ridiculous, so to say, because if you need to wait for one, that's about 3 months, and this.
Well, I was going to jump in quickly to look at, maybe that RT 100, maybe it's time for us to do an assessment of that policy, because if you say the bank should start sourcing, their own dollar, yes, pardon me. So the RT 200 really, that policy if you're to give your assessment of that policy, has it really helped the banks, the commercial banks? Because I remember when the CBN, banned the sales of Forex to the Bureau de Change at a point, and, made the commercial banks a point of, sale at that time, where people can go to source for this Forex. But again, the RT200 came, and we thought, okay, perhaps one was wondering, you're making the commercial banks, an official, institution, a financial institution where people can source access, and again, you turn back, maybe after 1 year after, you say the bank should go and source their own Forex. So, give us your assessment of the RT200.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me, Banu? Mr. Banu?
Hello,
yes.
Please come again, sir.
Yeah, give us your assessment of the RT200. Has it really helped the banks? Because isn't that a contradiction to the, the CBN's policy of using the commercial banks as a place only where people can go to source Forex at the time? Remember, they banned the sales of Forex to Bureau de Change at the time. I'm not sure if Banu can hear me. I mean, it's so quite...
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Can you hear me? Did you hear my question?
Yeah, the impact of the RT200. I would say if it has been positively impactful in the sense that, okay, yes, we've seen the growth of FX through the RT200, we won't be where we are today. Now, the banks are beginning to rationalize their FX, the FX they have, and increase the timing, which means that if you need FX today from the banks, you need to start, if you need FX in the next 3 months, you need to start applying for it now, which is very, very ridiculous, which means that the RT200 has not been impactful as expected. So there will be a kind of input from that angle, but it doesn't be, is very, very low compared to the demand of FX in the market. Okay.
I think it's a conversation that we'll continue to look at as well, or interrogate. Perhaps we just have to create, a time for that. But let's move on quickly because of our time. OPEC confirms country's oil production or output by 1.3 million barrels per day. So looking at the crude oil output for the month of February. And if you look at that, according to OPEC, all right, they are saying that Nigeria has overtaken Angola, overtaken Algeria to become, number one in Africa. So how cherry is this news?
It's cherry when it's talking about the production volume, but looking at what the price of the crude oil is doing in the markets now, it's not actually impactful. We remember
oh my goodness. I think we're having a difficult time today. Perhaps we'll be able to resolve that in a moment. But I think Banu was trying to let us know that,
compared to the OPEC quota,
okay.
1.8 million barrels per day. So which means that there's still room for improvement for Nigeria. But looking at the price of the market, we are producing this 1.3 million as at the time when the Russia-Ukraine crisis was highly intense, when the crude oil price was doing almost over $100 per barrel. So it will be a good one for the country's revenue. But now what we are having now is about $70 to $80 per barrel. So compared to 1.3 million, so it's really not that significant. But at least it's a go to another angle of the problem.
But can the country make the most of this figure, 1.3%, and at the amount the crude oil is selling now? Because if you look at as of today, we know that Brent was selling as high as 78 US dollars at 38 cents, and has moved up by 1.2% earlier today. So how do you think, or do you think this the country can make the most of this figure, 1.38? We're still short of 500,000 though, but the fact that we have overtaken, Angola and other African countries who were top, leading in terms of production before. So can we say this is a plus for us as well?
Yeah, I would say it's a plus in the sense that, okay, the expected revenue is likely to increase because of the volume of what we are producing now. But looking at the price, as I said, what the revenue will be determined not only by the volume, but both the volume and the price. If the price continues to decline, even though the volume is increasing, if the price continues to decline, it's going to affect the revenue. So it's not determined for how what's going to be the variation in terms of decline in the revenue or uptick in the revenue. So, but looking at the fact, comparing ourselves with the likes of the Angola, I would say is actually another good angle to look into it. But we need to look at our own expected revenue from the budget, from every angle we may look at it. But I would say it's a good one because if we continue to be at producing about 1 million barrels per day, even less than 1 million barrels per day, and comparing to this current price, it will be a very ridiculous one. But at least it's a good move upward to say, okay, yes, we are moving closer to the OPEC quota of 1.6 million barrels per day.
And with the fact that, OPEC has said that world demand or global demand will rise in 2023 ahead of 2024. So perhaps that's also a good news for us, and see how that goes in terms of, maximizing that opportunity. So let's look at the next one here. Interestingly, why the output has jumped, to 1.3 million barrels per day. Sadly enough, we are hearing another news that oil marketers said that they could be the price of pump price will go up, and I mean in the coming days, and that's because they've not had enough supply to go around. And so, how do we talk about or address the issue of incessant, scarcity and high disparity, especially with disparities in prices of pumps across the nation, because you have the major oil marketers price and you have the independent marketers price as well. So these are two different prices that we have at hand. So how do we address this?
Hello.
Yeah, can you
come again?
Oh, okay. So I was asking you that sadly enough, why the country has become number one in Africa in terms of oil production. Can you hear me now?
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me now, Banu? So okay, so if you can hear me, so I was saying that why it is good news that the country is topping Africa now in terms of crude oil production. Sadly enough, at home here, the prices is also something that a lot of people are concerned about, because the independent oil marketers warning that there will be price hike. And if you look at the price disparities between the major oil marketers association and independent oil marketers, it's quite a different world apart. So talk to us about this.
I think this question mostly needs to be answered by the NNPC, the sole importer of petrol in the country. So they are the one that determine how they distribute the imported fuels. So I think from the angle that, okay, yes, the independent marketer are expecting increase in the world economy in the fuel price, also goes to the volume of fuel we are using in the country per year, per week, per month, and stuff like that. So I'm also looking at how the world economy, the independent marketers are buying the fuel from other depot. So if they are buying at higher price at the depot, it's a matter of business. It's an issue of business. Irrespective of the price you are buying, you need to sell and make your marginal profits from it. So if they are buying at higher price from the depot side, then definitely they are going to sell at higher price. So I think what this issue needs to be addressed by the NNPC and the federal government at large. Since so far we are still paying subsidy on this, the subsidy has not been removed on the what you call it, on the fare. Definitely they need to answer this question. Except if the subsidy has been fully removed, then anybody can go to the global market, get the PMS and set alternate price.
Let's wrap it up with this one now, and this is an update on the Naira redesign policy. Banks have continued to ration the old Naira note again. The concern is that since the Supreme Court or the CBN has come out to issue official statement that this should be commercial banks should comply with the judgment of the Supreme Court. So what we're getting now is that these notes are not yet available, and so the ones available are being rationed by commercial banks as well. Again, NLC rather, beg your pardon, Nigeria Labour Congress has also issued a 7-day ultimatum to go on strike if these notes are not made available. So talk to us on this one. So how would you address this?
So let me come from the angle of the last week discussion we had. I said that the presidency or the Central Bank of Nigeria needs to come out and say, okay, this is their stance on the decision of the Supreme Court, which they have done this week, and it is a very good move for them. But we need to look at another thing, because early this year, two things came together: the Naira redesign and also the withdrawal limit. The withdrawal limit is still saying that, okay, yes, an individual account can still withdraw 500,000 naira, which means that if you go to the bank today, on average, you can withdraw 100,000 naira from the bank. So now, the question now again is that, okay, the old Naira note, is this still in the cover of the banks or in the cover of the Central Bank of Nigeria? So if it's in the cover of the Central Bank of Nigeria, the timing for you to move to the banks, of various banks, will actually still be impactful, because now you can't expect that to significantly just go into the banking system and start issuing. So the little one in the banking system, the little old Naira note I'm talking about now in the banking system, will still be rational among customers. But the banks needs to, the Central Bank of Nigeria needs to say, okay, yes, the issuing should also be significant to all, and to be equal to all customers.
To speed up the process of recirculating or reissuing this.
Recirculating exactly. So that's very, very critical for at the moment now. And what at the moment when the banks are actually doing the skeletal issuance of the old Naira notes, they are the one deciding not to collect it, because that's what giving the assurance to the public. Okay, if you are giving me something and you are not taking it back, how sure do you want me to take what you are giving me? So that's what actually caused the problem. I think that is not that the issue. The notice has come to the public to say, okay, yes, the old Naira notice will remain in legal tender. Immediately the Supreme Court gives the judgment, then we wouldn't have been it will have been more better off than we have today now.
Okay, let's wrap up with this in 30 seconds. The CBN wanted to curb vote buying, and so pull up those old Naira notes, and then of course start executing the Naira redesign policy. So do you think that will change anything now that we have this new Naira, I beg your pardon, this old note now as back in the system? Do you think anything is likely to change?
In terms of the election, there's no significant impact on that, because if you look at the last presidential election we had, so there are still some cases of vote buying in some area. So it can be significantly eliminates vote buying in the system, but it will go. The only thing that can say, okay, is the new Naira design actually impacts significantly is the issue of this kidnapping. Between then and now, we have recorded a significant reduce in the record of kidnapping cases. So that has actually impacted that. But in other aspects which we are expecting the new Naira design to impact positively, we haven't seen anyone rather than to increase the hardship on the citizens.
Well, thank you so much for your thoughts. I think we'll have to leave it there. Olaide Banu, macroeconomic analyst, thank you for coming on board.